well.
Paul Nuttall.
Remember the question Mark asked. Do we need a bloody difficult woman to negotiate Brexit?
Well, on Theresa May's record, I would say that she's a failure, actually. You look at her record as Home Secretary. This was the Home Secretary who said that she would get the numbers of people coming to this country down to the tens of thousands. Last year, it was a city the size of Newcastle upon Tyne. So her record isn't that great. What we do need is someone who will go into these negotiations and actually be prepared to walk away. Walk away if we don't get the deal we want. Because frankly, no deal is better than a bad deal. Now,
you're quoting her, aren't you? When you say that?
No.
That's what she said.
But the difference is, I mean it. I don't think she does. The EU is showing its true colours here. Within a space of 48 hours, our divorce bill went from 50 billion to 100 billion. OK? Now, they're on dodgy legal grounds with this anyway, but we shouldn't be paying a divorce bill into an organisation whereby we have given it, in membership fees alone, 183 billion since 1973. We've got 9 billion tied up in the European Investment Bank. We own some of the EU's real estate. They've got 156 billion pounds worth of real estate across Europe. We should not be paying any divorce bill to this organisation. Let's remember who we are. We're Great Britain. We're the 7th largest economy in the world, and the Prime Minister should go into these confident that she can get the best deal possible.
Fine. Let's stick with this, but maybe we'll come back to what went on at number 10 Downing Street, because David Davis began describing it. But Robert Langley, let's just have...
Until a professional outside body
adds
up both assets and liabilities, who can have any idea what the bill can be?
Exactly.
OK. Paul Nuttall, briefly, if you would.
I mean, the interesting quote of the week is from Juncker when he said that Brexit cannot be a success. And the reason why he's saying that is because they are terrified. Because if Brexit is a success and we are a beacon of light for the rest of the European Union, then France will go next, then Sweden will go, then Denmark will go, and the whole thing will begin to break up. And as for going into these negotiations, we can be confident. We have a huge trading deficit with the European Union. In many ways, they need us more than we need them. There's 6 million jobs on the continent which are dependent on British trade. Now, this might be a devious organisation, it might be a bullying organisation, but it isn't a stupid organisation. And I think people like David can go into these negotiations confident that we can get a really good deal for the British people.
We've had questions on other topics. I want to go on to some of them.
Yeah, I think my concern, and I think a lot of people in the country, we like to see Jeremy Corbyn because he will answer a question. All I've seen of Theresa May is dodge, dodge, dodge. She hasn't answered anything directly. I mean, the BBC interview the other day. Why can't we have politicians that will give us a direct answer, like Jeremy Corbyn?
Paul?
Do you know, I sort of feel sorry for Jeremy Corbyn, I have to say. I think he's an honourable and principled man. I disagree with his principles. And the problem that he's got is, although the press or the media are plunging the knife in his chest, his own party are plunging the knife in his back all the time. So he goes on. He goes on television, and they're in an awful muddle, to talk about something like Trident, and then he's being contradicted about an hour later by other members of his shadow cabinet. The problem that you've got with Labour at the moment is that it is completely split. You've got the Blairites who want rid of Corbyn. You've got Corbyn himself, who is in effect a throwback to a bygone era. But at least with Corbyn, you've got a clear choice in this election, because unfortunately what happened with politics during the Blairite era is that everyone rushed to the centre. I mean, there's a clear choice with Jeremy Corbyn as leader of the Labour Party, and I've mentioned Tony Blair. You can give me 10 Jeremy Corbyns over any Tony Blair any day.
We've got many more questions. Let's go to another one. Wendy Doherty.
Yeah, I mean, quite clearly there is a problem with homelessness in this country. There's lots of issues surrounding why people end up homeless, mental health issues. There can be issues around alcoholism, drugs, but obviously people being put out of work as well. Clearly, there isn't enough houses in Britain. The problem that we've got is that we've had a massive population boom, and that does go back to the issue of how many people come to this country. But equally, we haven't built enough houses over the years. We need a real council house building programme. We're not building enough. And you know, we're sitting here in Wigan tonight. This is part of my constituency. I'm an MEP for the North West. And I just feel as if we've been left behind, because everything in this country, all of the money, everything gets spent in London. What we want to see is not only real devolved power, but devolved finance as well. You know, the Tories had this northern powerhouse or this industrial strategy. It's complete codswallop. What we need to do is ensure... I'll give you an example, just before I finish. In London, they're spending £5,000 per head on infrastructure. In the northeast of England, it's about £400. We need to get the money out of London. We need to get it out to places like the northwest of England.
OK. I'll take just one point from the woman in the third row there, and then we'll go on to another question. Yes.
The resource that the NHS has is its workers, and that is the only thing that this government is not putting money into. 1% pay rise again this year. That's for the last 7 years we've had 1%, which is devaluing nurses' wages. It's encouraging people to go on banks and to go into agencies to leave the country. Right. Okay. You have a shortage of doctors and a shortage of nurses, but you will not give us a pay rise.
Paul Nuttall. Yeah. By my clock, we only have a couple of minutes left. So if you
I mean, the first thing that you could do, which is just complete common sense, is merge social care and health care. Because, you know, in January, there was 1 million people who were lying on hospital beds who couldn't leave because they had nowhere else to go. It's insane. The problem that we've got is that when Labour came to power in 1997, we were spending £33 billion a year on the NHS. When they left, we were spending £99 billion. The problem is they stuffed the NHS full of pen pushers, bureaucrats and managers. OK?
Leanne, stop you, Paul, because Leanne.
I think the main issue that we've got, and we're just bypassing it completely, is the amount of people that are actually in this country. We are a very, very tiny country with too many people in, and the funding with the NHS does not recognise that. So as Paul just noticed then with the Labour with Tony Blair, who opened our borders, and that rose dramatically, so how are we going to do that?
You're more likely to have an immigrant... You're more likely to have an immigrant
because they're under so much pressure. That's why they don't want to work in the NHS. They don't want to work in that sector.
No, you can't come back.
We've got a shortage of doctors. We need more immigrant doctors to come and work in our
As Jürgen said, we're always debating this on Question Time, and as so often we...